Before touchscreens, before emission sensors, before a single warning light blinked on a dashboard, there were machines that moved mountains with nothing but steel, hydraulics, and brute mechanical will. No computers to fail, just iron that refused to quit, and operators who trusted their gut over a screen. Some of these loaders are still working today, 60 years on, while modern machines sit dead waiting on a software update. These are 10 forgotten giants, and they truly don't build them like this anymore. Number 10. The Huff HA Payloader. We start with the machine that, in a quiet way, outlasted nearly everything around it. The Huff HA was the smallest of the early payloaders. But here's the remarkable part. It stayed in production, in various modified forms, longer than any other model in the Huff lineup. From 1947 all the way through to 1982. That's 35 years of continuous production for a single basic design. Think about that. While entire companies came and went, the little HA just kept being built because it worked and because operators trusted it. The name payloader itself became something bigger than the machine. Frank G. Huff added a word to the working vocabulary of an entire industry. For decades, if someone needed a payloader, everyone on the job site knew exactly what was meant, regardless of who actually built it. That's the kind of cultural footprint a machine only earns by being genuinely good at its job for a very long time. The HA wasn't sophisticated. It didn't need to be. And that simplicity is exactly why so many survived. Number 9. The Huff HM and the couldn't kill it reputation. Staying with Huff for a moment, because the early Huff machines deserve it. These loaders developed a reputation among the men who ran them that you simply don't hear about modern equipment. Operators who used the early Huff loaders in the late 1940s and 1950s described engines and transmissions that they genuinely could not wear out. One operator who ran an early Huff recalled that they couldn't kill the 6-cylinder gas engine or the transmission no matter what they threw at it, and that the machine didn't even have working brakes, so they'd stop it by throwing it into reverse or forward, depending on which way they were rolling down a slope. Now, let's be clear. That's not a safety feature anyone should celebrate. It's genuinely dangerous, and it's exactly the kind of thing modern ROPS and FOPS safety standards exist to prevent. But it tells you something about the raw mechanical durability of the drivetrain. A machine that gets abused like that with no brakes, stopped by slamming the transmission and still keeps running, that's an engine and a gearbox built with enormous margins of strength. There are stories of these machines being found abandoned in the woods, having a Chevy 350 dropped in when the original finally tired, and going right back to work on a farm. That's the definition of a machine built to be kept alive. Number 8. The Huff H-Series and the Z-Bar linkage. This one earns its place not just for toughness, but for the genius of its design. A design so good that it's still on virtually every wheel loader built today. In the early 1960s, Huff introduced what they called the Z-Bar linkage, a bucket linkage that, viewed from the side, looked like the letter Z. It debuted on a new lineup of four-wheel drive H-Series payloaders, the H120, H90, H70, H50, and H30, offering bucket capacities from 1 to 4 cubic yards. About a year later, Huff engineers made two refinements. They moved the loader arm's pivot points ahead of the operator and used a single Z-bar link between them. That combination improved performance so dramatically that the basic geometry is reflected in virtually every production wheel loader manufactured to this day. Think about the durability of an idea. Most modern designs are obsolete in a decade. This linkage has been the industry standard for over 60 years. The H-Series also pioneered features like hydrostatic transmission. The early 1960s Huff H25 was the first in the industry with one. When a design from the Eisenhower era is still the template the entire industry copies, that's a different kind of built to last. Number 7. The International Harvester H400 Payloader. Now we get to the giants. In 1964, the Huff division of International Harvester launched the H400, the company's first articulated frame loader and the largest machine International had ever built up to that time. This thing was a monster for its era. It carried a standard bucket of 10 cubic yards, which was one of the largest available anywhere on the market in the mid-1960s, and was powered by either a Cummins or a GM V12 diesel, making around 420 flywheel horsepower. The H400 was developed directly from the D500 paydozer. a 145,000-pound articulated wheel dozer with a 600 horsepower Cummins that International had proven in the field. So the loader inherited the bones of a machine built for the most brutal push loading and stockpile work imaginable. When you build a loader on the skeleton of something designed to shove scrapers around a mine site, you get a machine with structural margins that modern weight-optimized designs simply don't have. Engineers today shave every possible pound to save fuel and cut material cost. The H400 was built the opposite way, overbuilt, heavy, and nearly indestructible. Number 6. The Caterpillar 966. The Caterpillar 966 is one of the most enduring names in the entire history of earth-moving, and for good reason. Caterpillar launched the 966 series in 1960 as a rigid-frame loader with a 2.75 cubic yard bucket, and the 966A had actually been introduced as early as 1959. Then in 1963, CAT implemented articulated steering in the series with the 966B. That decision set the template for the modern loader. What makes the 966 a toughness legend isn't any single spec, it's longevity as a product line. The 966 has been in continuous production and development for over 60 years, evolving through the A, B, C, E, F, and onward to today's M series. CAT even produces an Evolution series model pairing the circa 1960 to 1963 966A with the current 966M to celebrate that lineage. The reason a manufacturer keeps a model designation alive for 6 decades is simple. The machine earned a reputation for reliability that became a sales asset in itself. The early rigid frame and early articulated 966 units were famous for being rebuildable almost indefinitely. Operators didn't replace them, they overhauled them, dropped in new components and kept running. That rebuild don't replace philosophy is the heart of what built tougher really means. Number 5. The Caterpillar 98088. If the 966 is the workhorse legend, the 988 is the heavyweight legend. The first production Caterpillar 988 articulated steering wheel loader rolled off the line in 1963. At the time, it was the largest and most powerful wheel loader Caterpillar had ever built. It carried a 5 cubic yard bucket and was powered by a 6-cylinder CAT D343 diesel rated at 300 flywheel horsepower, a figure that rose to 325 horsepower by 1968, when the rock bucket capacity also grew to 6 cubic yards. Here's the staggering durability fact. That original 988 with the 87, a serial number prefix, stayed in production from 1963 all the way to 1976 before being replaced by the 988B. And the 988 name has now been an industry leader for over 60 years, running continuously through to the modern 988GC and 988K. Caterpillar themselves note that since 1963, the CAT 988 has helped more customers than any other model in its size class. You don't sustain that kind of market dominance for 6 decades on marketing. You sustain it because the machine showed up to work every single day in quarries, mines, and mill yards, some of the harshest environments on Earth, and kept going. The D343 engine in particular earned a reputation as a nearly unbreakable power plant. Number 4. The Clark Michigan 175. Let's talk about the brand that for a generation was Caterpillar's most serious rival in the loader world, Michigan. Built by Clark Equipment, the first Michigan wheel loader was presented in 1954, and the brand quickly became one of the major forces in the industry. By the mid-1960s, Clark Michigan was named right alongside Caterpillar and Trojan as Huff's stiffest competition. The Michigan 175 sits right in the sweet spot of that lineup. The 175C carried a 5.5 cubic yard bucket, made nearly 310 horsepower, and weighed in around 57,000 pounds, a serious, heavy, mid to large production loader. Michigan loaders used a Clark countershaft type power shift transmission, and Clark's expertise in transmissions and axles, they were one of the great drivetrain companies, meant these machines had running gear built to take punishment. The Michigan brand left such an undeniable mark on the industry that even after it disappeared, the machines kept working. The reason these loaders are forgotten today is heartbreaking and simple. The brand itself was eventually absorbed and retired, not because the machines failed, but because of corporate consolidation. The iron outlived the company. Number 3. The Clark Michigan 275. The bigger brother earns its own spot. The Clark Michigan 275 was manufactured across an exceptionally long run, From 1965 all the way to 1985, 20 years for a single heavy production model. The base 275 weighed about 25 tons, while the later 275C grew to a massive 7.5 cubic yard bucket, nearly 400 horsepower, and a weight approaching 88,700 pounds in its largest forms. 20 years of continuous production tells you everything. Manufacturers don't keep building a machine for 2 decades unless the fundamental design is sound and the market keeps demanding it. The 275 was a quarry and heavy construction staple, and like its smaller sibling, it gained a reputation for taking abuse that would destroy lesser machines. When Clark's loader business was eventually folded into the VME Group in 1985, a joint venture with Volvo, the Clark Michigan name was laid to rest and the smaller models were phased out to make room for Volvo BM loaders. Again, the brand died of corporate consolidation, not of any failure of the iron. Plenty of 275s kept working for decades afterward in the hands of operators who knew exactly what they had. Number 2. The Volvo BM LM1240 and LM1641. Now we cross the Atlantic to Sweden, to a company whose loaders earned a reputation for durability that's almost legendary among operators who know them. Volvo BM, descended from a company tradition stretching back to Munktells in 1832, built the LM series loaders that became the backbone of Scandinavian forestry and construction. The LM1641 and its smaller sibling, the LM1240, were the machines that made Volvo's name in loaders. Volvo specialized early on in log handling, and the LM1641 was offered in a high-lift version specifically because the ability to lift heavy loads higher gave a significant productivity boost in log handling. There was even a version specially designed for compacting garbage. But the real durability story is Volvo's early embrace of the quick attach philosophy. They recognized very early the benefits of a machine that could change quickly between different attachments and applications, and built an expanding range of genuine attachments to match. A loader that works in the freezing forests of Sweden hauling logs, then switches to compacting waste, then to construction and survives all of it across decades, is a machine built with serious structural integrity. Volvo's forestry-bred loaders had to survive cold, mud, impact, and constant attachment changes, and they were engineered accordingly. The lineage that ran through these LM machines became the foundation of Volvo's modern loader dominance, proof that the toughness was real enough to build an empire on. Number 1. The Scoopmobile and the birth of articulation. For our number 1, we go back to the machine that started the most important durability revolution of all, and it's one almost nobody remembers. In 1953, a company called Mixa Mobile Manufacturers in Portland, Oregon, introduced the Scoopmobile Model LD5. It featured something the industry had never seen in a production loader: an articulated frame. This was the breakthrough. Before articulation, loaders used rigid frames with rear-wheel steering, and they had a serious flaw: poor maneuverability that made them awkward and slow in tight quarters. The articulated frame gave the operator dramatically more control over both the machine and the bucket. And yet, here's the fascinating part of the history. The concept was so far ahead of its time that it was slow to catch on. It took another full decade before the leading manufacturers recognized that articulation was the way to increase productivity through better maneuverability and shorter cycle times. Caterpillar didn't introduce articulated steering until 1963. Hov's articulated four-wheel drive machines didn't arrive until 1965. So the Scoopmobile's articulated frame wasn't just durable engineering, it was durable thinking. A single design idea from 1953 became the universal standard that every single large wheel loader on Earth uses today. The company is forgotten, the machine is forgotten, but its core innovation has outlasted everything, proving more permanent than the corporation that created it. That's the ultimate version of built to last. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the iron legends, hit subscribe, because next time we're digging into the forgotten dozers that built the interstate highway system. Drop a comment and tell me, which of these machines did you run or wish you could? I read every one. Thanks for watching.